Joining us today is Katia Rave from Rave Strategy Studios. Katia helps coaches, speakers, and driven service-based business owners to start, grow, and build a serious six-figure business through public speaking. Her clients use her proven methods to get booked on stages worldwide and develop an endless stream of leads, clients, and cash. As the CEO of Rave Strategy Studio and the creator of the Get Leads, Clients, and Cash Speaking Success System, she guides her clients to stop the income roller coaster and sharpen their client acquisition and conversion skills to boost their bottom line.
Welcome to the Focus and Bloom podcast, a business and lifestyle podcast for creative souls and dream makers. Each week, we'll talk about how to build your brand and tackle work-life balance with purpose and joy, one action at a time. Here's your host, Josenia Bocanegra.
Hello, Katia. Bonjour.
Bonjour, Yesenia.
Thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you on the other side of the other chair.
I know. Thank you for having me as a guest.
I'm so happy. So before we dive into the questions, can you share a little bit about you and what is your new normal?
Wow, what is my new normal? So believe it or not, actually, my new normal hasn't changed too much. I am someone who works on Zoom with clients. So, I work at home. So that hasn't changed. I don't really go out to eat because I love to cook. So that has not changed much. And I'm not really a fan of shopping unless I'm overseas or in Argentina. So that hasn't really changed beside my inability really to travel. As a keynote speaker, as someone who gets on stage, to generate a lot of my leads. And like I teach my client, traveling obviously right now and events are being canceled. So that has changed a little bit. And so what I've been doing is I have pivoted just a little bit. And I have basically used online as a platform to use my speaking.
I love that, in all of the situation, there's this silver lining where we are being forced to think outside the box and try new things that we wouldn't normally or would otherwise not try. Because, if you want to stay creative, stay innovative within our own business, we need to figure new things out. And just, being online, everybody's online right now. So why not?
Right. And it's something that for me, I knew that I needed to do. It's just, I was so busy doing other things, then it was not a priority. But then when you are forced to do it, and now this is a lot of the things that I cater to my client with, instead of teaching them how to get on stage and create a signature talk for that. Now we just had to pivot a little bit, and we're offering to, help them. How do you do live? How do you do live with guests? How do you collaborate with people? And how do you use the essence of your talk still with, getting an infinite amount of leads, but online?
And the skills that they're able to develop right now will really help them once we go back to whatever the new normal will be, or back to normal. So that's really good, because then they'll be able to put those skills into practice in the day-to-day interaction with people, but then bring that online as well. So it's really adding a lot of value to their business and that customer interaction, which is great.
Yes. I really think so. And I think it's taking some of the nerves out for them, because really, when you think about it, you just have a camera, not just a camera, but versus having, 500 people in front of you. So they're getting really used to their talk and how to draw some energy and how to have their own energy. That way, when they'll be ready to get on stage, I think they'll knock it out of the park.
Yep, it's a good practice run for sure. All right, so we are going to talk about public speaking and how you can use that to up-level your business and get more leads. So can you tell us more about public speaking and how we can use that as a tool to generate leads?
Yes. So I think the number one priority is when you have someone like me who's a business coach and who tell my client, you don't have a choice. We're going to put you on stage. This is how, we have to conquer that. Is what is the purpose of you being on stage? It's your why. We always go back to that. I think whatever aspect of a business, it's what are your why? What is the purpose of you being on stage? What do you want to happen at the end? And that's really the number one priority.
I agree. And I think it's not just for public speaking, but in general, you should have a purpose or a drive that will help guide you in your decision making process with your business and in your marketing. So it's not just like, well, I'm going to set up a business because, well, I'm going to do something and not really have a background, purpose, and drive. And same thing goes with your marketing, with your speaking, with your speaking gigs as well. So like, there should be something that there's that ultimate goal that will be driving you into the next step.
That's right. But when I tell them, I say, it depends what do you want to, I mean, for me, the purpose of teaching them speaking is to get leads. But some people I teach just the signature talk without teaching the business part. And they want to do a TED talk, or they want to learn how to sell from the stage, or there's so many different ways of speaking, or they want to just be a keynote speaker and get paid. So I think when you know what is the purpose of it for your business, and then we can develop a strategy of going backward.
So you mentioned signature talk. How can somebody develop their signature talk?
It's funny. So someone asked me that yesterday, and I don't think anybody actually had that question before, which is interesting now. Then the questions who are coming in. A signature talk is really the essence of who you are, and the way I was thinking of that last night, and I was like, how can I really describe? And it's basically, as a photographer, you're probably going to appreciate that. It's really the way then you are looking at the world through your own lens. It's what is your point of view? When you have your point of view, really figure it out. What is your point of view on everything? Whether it's on finances, on cooking, on traveling, on, parenting, on business. When you have figured out what is your overall point of view in a general idea, then we can kind of narrow it down to the business. And now we know what you are about. What do you believe? What do you stand up for? What would you put a fight with someone, on what subject? When you have discovered that, then we know at the core what you really are about. And then we can take your point of view, what you do in your business, and what pinpoint do you fix in your business? Who is your ideal audience? And boom, we put all of this together. And then you have your signature talk. I mean, nobody has the same point of view. We can find 10,000 people who have the same job. We can find so many other people who are going to exactly the same niche, the same everything. However, the point of view of these two people could be the opposite. And that's how you stand out. That's how you make yourself different. And in a signature talk, it is my job to have the right question to ask to really discover what is this point of view. Because most of the time, most people don't even know what is their own point of view.
And that's really great because it's what's going to help people resonate with what you do, not just on the level of them potentially hiring you, but also like them realizing things that they didn't think of in a different circumstance. So I think, and you also mentioned like it's mixing your point of view and then those pinpoint problems and how are you going to mix and mingle the two together, because we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just putting together our own secret sauce to it.
That's right. Yeah, this is what makes us different.
Yes.
So many people ask me this. They're like, "Why would you have another business coach on your live?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, their point of view and my point of view, we totally the opposite." So why wouldn't I? That way we can serve even more people. There's a lot of people who don't like my style. They don't like my way. They don't like my accent. They don't like many things about me. But I stand out, out of a bunch of people, and on the stage even more because of what I teach.
And that's important for people to know that it's okay if that not everybody will resonate with you, and that's fine. You will have your own audience.
That's right.
That's important.
Yeah, I always say it's better to have. When I pitch myself, for example, I really love what you said. If I can go just on that a little bit. When I pitch myself, I am very clear about what I am not. And it is more important when I pitch myself for the event planner to know what I am not, because then they can decide in a heartbeat if I am for them or not. And, I start my pitch by, hey, we've been told a lie. I mean, so already that says a lot about how I speak. That says a lot about my style. That says a lot about how franche or direct I am about, about the language I use. And some event planners are like, oh, no, right from the beginning, we don't want that. And some others are like, oh my gosh, we totally need her on our stage.
And that's fine because we have there's always an audience for everybody.
That's right.
So you mentioned that right now when you're teaching, you've sort of pivoted a little bit so that you can coach your clients to do lives. And in these lives are a little bit of a training ground for them for when we go back to normal and go back to actually public speaking. So one thing that I'm sure a lot of people go through this is like the fear of public speaking. So do you have any sort of like tips to help with that?
Yes, I think, when you really know your thing, when you know what you teach, when you're really sure about who's your ideal client and you know they're there in the audience, when you know exactly for sure what you do, how you help people, already this is 75% of your confidence. And then, do you know your own thing better than me? And I think that's what I tell my client. I say, I cannot know something in your field better than you. You have to come out knowing your stuff. So you have to read, you have to get knowledge, you have to know that, because you cannot have someone in the audience who's going to look at your stats, for example, and say, she's not right. So one of those things is when you really have that confidence, when you know your subject forward, backward, sideways, and many, many different ways, the fear is, yes, you do get the little butterfly right before, because you're like, am I going to trip with those super high heels? But those really go away the moment you open your mouth. The second thing, then, I would say, who makes a big difference on the fear or not the fear is, are you there for you? Or are you there for them? When we are there for them and when we are there to deliver value, it is never about me on stage. So yeah, of course, I need to look the part. I need to be dressed. I need to be, my hair done, my makeup, obviously, like those things. But it's never about me. It's what do I do for them? What value do I bring them? So when you really make it about them, about your audience, you really feed off of the energy of it, and you really eliminate a lot of the part of I am fearful. Why are you fearful of public speaking? Because it's about you. And that's what it's all about. It's like, oh my gosh, what if I mess up? I tell my client, I say, it's not if you're going to mess up. It's when you're going to mess up. You're going to mess up. So you just need to know then, we just don't know when it's going to happen. And then, I always give them tips for that. For example, it's not like people are worried they're going to forget their words. What if I forget my words? Well, that means then you have something so memorized, then it's not anymore about giving to your audience because you're not catering it to them. Instead, what we want is we really want to learn into little vignettes. That's why we bring it in. And then if you forget the word or who cares? You have your vignette, you know your job, you know your stuff, you know your trade, you know what you're talking about. So the words come out anyway, maybe not the way you wanted them, but again, it's not about you.
It's about them. Yeah, that's a really good point. I love that you mentioned confidence, like and educate yourself. Like you really have to do the research, make sure that you know what you're talking about. Because if you're speaking in front of 500 people and you have no clue what you're talking about,
that's right.
I don't think it's going to be great.
That's right. And you're going to have people like me who are going to challenge you. So I have been in an audience where I actually knew more about the subject than the person who spoke. And she asked for questions. So I was like, I could be wrong, but I was like, hey, what about, and you have to follow the news. Like it was like that morning, then something had come out and what she had said was totally not aligned with it. So I was like, hey, what about that? And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, this morning on the news, blah, blah. And she was like, oh, I didn't know that. And suddenly I was more the expert in the audience than she was on the stage. And I felt really bad because I assumed she knew, honestly. But suddenly I diminished. So I tell my client, I never want them to be in this position. So they always have to look at the news that morning, the news the day before. I don't care how late they go to bed, but just to make sure that they're aware if there's something in their industry who popped out was very important.
That's a really, really great tip for sure. All right. So if somebody is interested in doing public speaking, how can they start?
I always tell people, for me, I'm like, know what you do. And then when you know what you do, go to a networking event and try it out. And then if you see people having a blank face, you need to try it again. You need to craft another thing. And it's not about knowing it by heart. It's about knowing what you do for sure. And then you move on to what are the two things that I teach? What are the two main things that I teach? Not 10,000, two. And then you develop a talk, pretty much around that.
I think once you feel confident and you really know what you're talking about, everything's just going to flow. It might not come out as eloquently as you'd like, but it's going to come out, and you're going to be able to project that what you're talking about, and that's
right. And it's it's trial and error. You're going to have to go for me, I can tell you what I do in I didn't know it by heart, but I know for sure who do I help. I help speakers, I help coaches, and I help people who are creative in the service-based industry. What do? I help them run their business, start their business, grow their business. Boom, that's what I do. What is one of the strategies that I do? By using public speaking. And then I can kind of repurpose this, what one of the things that I know I say, it's like, what do I know about my clients or the people who want to hire me? They're having what I call the income roller coaster. So when you know for sure what you do and what are the strategy, then the two main things, then you help people, then you can say it kind of even just like I said,
And knowing your client is important, like knowing really those pinpoints, because then that will give you that extra dose of confidence, because you know what you do, and you know that there is that particular pinpoint problem that you can help them with.
Yes.
You'll be able to feel more confident when you're speaking about that, when you're reaching those potential clients, when you're networking, and when you're doing your thing.
That's right. And don't be afraid to add. Honestly, with everything that's happening, I just posted on my Facebook. What is on my regular page, not on my business page? I just wanted to know what was one of the biggest problems that people were having. And they're like, I don't know how to do live. I can't get off the couch. I can't, okay. What does that mean in my word? Time management. Mm-hmm. And using public speaking as a thing. And I cater to it. I'm teaching there's some people who have hired me, the past 2 weeks, and all I do, it's in the morning, I'm like, hey, this is what you have to tackle today. I just help them basically to have an accountability partner to get off the couch. You have to cater within your field to what is the need. And if you don't ask them, you just don't know.
Yeah. And what better market research than to ask your own audience?
Oh my gosh, you can beat
that. So, to you, what are the best resources that have helped you along the way as you've built your coaching and public speaking career?
Some of the resources, I have 3 coaches, so those, I wouldn't be able to, I tell people, I say it's very pretentious of people to say hire me when they don't have one of those. That's number one. For me, I also have 5 people. It's a circle of 5 people we're very like-minded. We are pretty much the same place in our business. We're fluctuating, but we're basically in competition with each other in a good way. And it's like, we check in. And those are, amazing resources. And then, of course, I would not live without technology. Technology, and, whether we're talking about Acuity, whether we're talking about Zoom, whether we're talking about Grammarly, for me, that's a big thing. in speaking in itself, it was really understanding what things I can dress on stage. So because I am French, I'm pretty cool and funky in the way I dress. I have my own style. However, on stage, your own style doesn't always work. And that was definitely something I had to evaluate. And now then I teach as well. It's like, hey, we don't want to dress too much higher than our audience. You don't want to put things, for example, I never wear those earrings on stage, because if I have a mic, they move a little bit and they make a tiny noise. Little things like that. Bracelet is the same. I mean, all of those resources, are amazing. My CRM has been a livelihood for me. I wouldn't go without a CRM. I really keeping track, knowing my numbers at the beginning of the month and where I want to be at the end of the month, and then breaking it down by week, breaking it down by day, and not going to really making a commitment to myself.
So, Katia, what about things to avoid doing when it comes to public speaking?
What to avoid doing? I would say avoid trying to be like everybody else, because people have a tendency as speakers to look at the speaker who was in front of us, or two speakers in front of us, and going like, oh, wow, she was so cool. She was so wonderful. And yeah, I need to bring more of this. So we we have a tendency to want to change things at the last minute. And it's like, it's a no-no. I tell my client, I was like, you have a plan, you follow the plan. And, you want to be comfortable in your own thing. So I would definitely say that's one of the things to avoid. And really avoid going to places where you don't have your ideal client. I made that mistake, like everybody else. When I'm telling you what to avoid, it's because I have made those mistakes. And one of the things, I had gone to this really, really cool event. I mean, leadership woman, definitely not more into the high CEOs, and definitely not my crowd. They first of all, they looked at me like, what are you talking about? I had not done a great job. I had a great talk, but again, my talk was not meant for the audience. And that's when I decided to switch from, I had an amazing coach, speaking coach. However, the talk was just crafted beautifully. And that is something that I really took. I used the talk once, and then I never re-delivered the talk, because no matter how beautiful it wasn't for a purpose. It wasn't for my audience. It didn't have the things that I do. And that I would avoid. I would avoid that. I would avoid just being allured by these, Facebook ad. Spend $27 with me today and you'll make six figure. I think that's one of the big things that I say to avoid. Your return on investment is just be smart, when you pick and choose. And I would say just avoid procrastination. I think it's so much easier to get it done by Thursday, and then you have the rest of the week to chill out if you really want to. But that's, waiting until the last minute is not great. And the last thing I would say is really don't avoiding your numbers. People avoid looking at their numbers. They don't want to take a look at what's coming in and what's going out. And when you really have a good idea of that, then you can really start to make sound decisions.
Oh my gosh, yes, I'm so glad that you brought up the financial aspect of things, because
it's a business.
Yeah. It's business. Yeah.
No,
we need to know.
Yeah.
We definitely need to know what's coming in, what's coming out, what frequency, and if our efforts, because this is not easy. Running a business is not easy. There's a lot of effort put into it. We want to make sure that this effort is worth it, and then that we're getting that return on investment that we really want. And yeah, absolutely. And oh, go ahead.
No. Like you just went on something. Like one of the in my book coming out, I actually talk a lot about sales. I love sales, and I teach my client after what comes after the talk. After they deliver the signature talk, how do we convert? How do we convert these people in the audience? So we talk sales, and I had a person telling me, and that's in the chapter of the book, saying like, I didn't sign on to be in sales. And I was like, I am so sorry to break it down to you. But what is being in business? Being in business, it's we're delivering value. It's a transaction. And in exchange, we're getting something. And that something is money. And the definition of business is actually making a profit. It's making money. And if we are not looking at numbers, then we're kind of doomed because we are not going to make money. Yeah,
that couldn't be more true. And two things that are really, I think, are super important that you've mentioned. One, stay true to yourself, like not try and become somebody else, especially changing things last minute when you're about to go on stage, and finances, because it is a business. So we definitely need to look at our finances and set a plan.
That's right.
Set a plan for that. All right. So before we wrap up our talk today, I want to do a lightning round. And this is where I'll ask you a few questions, non-podcast speaking, business related, and this is just for fun.
All right.
All you need to do is answer the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
All right. So coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What is your favorite word?
Photography.
Oh, what are you not very good at?
Swimming.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. That was hard when I did my triathlon. Poof, I am not good at it.
Right. You did triathlons.
Mm-hmm. Swimming. I am not good at it.
I'm terrible at the biking part. If you were a type of food, what type of food would you be?
I would be a shell, like a fruit de mer. It would be like either a crab, an oyster. No, I would be an oyster. The pearl. Look, I love pearl. I would be an oyster.
Beautiful. What sound or noise do you love?
The water, the ocean. Actually, more specifically, the bells of the sailboat on the harbor in the ocean.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. I actually used to fall asleep. My house is in the ocean in France, and I used to fall asleep to that sound, and I did not know I missed it so much until I moved out.
Wow. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
None. I think I owned a spa. I was into photography, and photojournalism was really my thing. And this is it for me because I get to open a lot of different kind of business, and this is really. There's no better job. There's nothing else because I work with photographers. I work with massage therapists. I work with attorneys. I work with accountants. Like I feel like I get to experience every single job. I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And another question. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
I would be able to go somewhere super fast. That's why I could go home very fast, give a kiss to my little nephew. And on the way back, I would stop in Martinique and I would give a hug to my parents. And then I would be back here for my family by dinner. So speed going. I don't know, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's lovely. I think especially now, wouldn't we all wish to just like snap a finger and then be somewhere?
And then at night after dinner, I would just like take myself to Buenos Aires to go to a milonga. So yes, actually that's definitely something that I would love.
Oh, that's beautiful. And finally, where can our listeners connect with you online?
Well, they can connect with me on all social media, on LinkedIn and on Instagram. I am Katia Rave, Katia Katia, and Rave, to say the American way, Rave. And on Facebook, it's Business Strategy Studio. On my website is Rave Strategy Studio. It's pretty. I mean, just type Katia Rave on Google and you'll have like all the social media coming in.
Wonderful. Katia, thank you so very much for being on today's episode. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat and share your expertise and your knowledge on speaking and just a little more information. So thank you. Merci beaucoup.
De rien. Merci en tant que guest. It was a pleasure to be your guest. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Focus and Bloom podcast. Check us out on Instagram at _Focus and Bloom for more business tips and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave us a review so we can continue to bring you fresh content. Until next time.